Welcome back to my channel. This is Dom, and a quick look through the new Muskets and Tomahawks supplement, Shakos and Bayonets. This is, anybody who watched the channel or the Plastic Crack podcast will know that I've been very excited about this rule set coming out, or this supplement coming out. This covers the Napoleonic period. Basically, the original Muskets and Tomahawks covered conflict in North America, and this one covers the Napoleonic Wars. And I love Muskets and Tomahawks. I think it's a really, really clever system. Enjoyable games. Somewhat tough to get a result out of them sometimes. The scenarios in the book are quite challenging for all sides, but still one of those really fun games to play. One of our go-to games in my wargaming group. So the fact this rule set came, or this new supplement came out, is really, really important. Now, I keep saying supplement because it's really crucial to remember. To play this, you need the core rulebook. So this, sorry, making lots of wrestling. You need to have the main skirmish book. Because actually this is largely scenarios, army lists, a few national characteristics which add flavour to it, but you can't play the game without both sets. Now, that's my one slight criticism of these rules, is they're quite expensive. I mean, this rule book is 20 quid. It's a high quality book. I'll say that straight off the bat. It's a really nicely done book, and probably better quality. Sorry, I'm rattling again. This is the original supplement for the first edition. Is a much less durable book than the new Shako book. Some lovely illustrations in there. They've done a really good job with it. But it's 20 quid. Funny enough, I saw people complaining on one of the forums that things like the typos getting through, it got dracoons misspelled. It's just French. This was originally, it's a French, Shako's, Studio Tomahawks that do these rules are French, and a lot of the rules, a lot of the headlines, they've just left the same, which I have absolutely no problem with at all. I haven't gone through line by line to find typos, there's typos in everything, so I'm not going to get hung up about that. Anyway, by the by, yes, so 20 quid in itself isn't too bad, but then you've got to have the cards to play it, and these are another tenner, so you're talking 30 quid on top of the core rule book. So, just something to factor in. I suppose if you're playing with a group, then only one of you need to buy the cards. So that's a slight saving. Anyway, that said, I suppose 20, 30 quid is a fairly much a going rate these days for rule sets, which is a real shame. Now, I haven't had a game with these, so that's the caveat yet. But if you want to see sort of highlights of a game anyway, go over to my mate Alex's channel. Put the link in the description and underneath here. He played a game the other week with another mate of mine, Jonathan, over Zoom. They didn't record all the gameplay, but he took you through the game. So if you want to see the gameplay, go over there to Alex. I'm just going to show you basically what I've picked up from reading through these rules since they landed on my desk. Or landed on my desk, on my, it sounds like work, landed on my doorstep. So first up, armies. I know this is always hugely interesting to people. So you've got the usual culprits. You've got French army, you've got the British army, Prussians, Spanish, Austrians and Russians. And then there's a sort of catch-all category, which will probably get my attention more than anything else, which is minor nations, which basically covers everything else. So Confederacy of the Rhine, the Brunswickers, Swedish, Danish, Dutch, Nassau, etc., etc. And the rulebook does, well, first of all, the rulebook does a really nice job. If you're not aware of it already, I'm sure people who bought this book will well be aware of the different what goes on in the period. But there's a nice sort of scene setting bit here about the camp, about the war itself. Interesting, they're focusing on 1805 to 1815 rather than the early period, which is fine. There are a number of special bits and bobs in here. So the key thing, I guess, with these rules, or with this supplement, is the national characteristics that they brought in. So in the standard rule set, there's not an awful lot of difference between, you know, a musketeer on, a rifleman or a fusilier on the British side in the American War of Independence against one of Washington's Continentals. There's a few nuances around the factors, but basically they have the same abilities. Not so much in this supplement, and this is one of the things that's quite intriguing. There are national characteristics. So the British have something called tactical superiority. So if you played Muskets and Tomahawks, you'll know that it's a card-driven game. You get 3 cards in your hand. When you play one, it's replaced. You have to play one, or you play command tokens. Beginning of game, you get a couple of command tokens, but also you get them when you play an opponent's card. And as you build those up, it allows you to do things out of sequence. So instead of playing your card, you can use your command tokens to activate various units. Now, in this supplement, you can use the command tokens to activate the national characteristics of a unit. So the French have this tactical superiority. For 3, 4, or 5, depending on the size of the unit, command tokens, they can actually activate up to 2 units to do an extra movement or charge. And any charge gets a +1 bonus on all reaction tests at the end of hand-to-hand. Basically, it's to sort of give the flavour of the French elan. So that's kind of cool. So you could burn, so if you've got 2 8-man units, 4 points will activate both of them for an extra move just when you need it, which is very good. British and Portuguese have something called rolling fire, which costs them 4 command points, which is supposed to allow you to simulate the fire discipline of the British and the better Portuguese troops. It allows you to remove up to 2 fire markers from your units in the force with a close order trait. The 2 markers can be removed from the same unit or from 2 different units. In a Portuguese force, only cacadores can benefit from the ability. And they're able to use that despite not having the close order trait. So basically, if you fired a volley with your British and you've got 4 command tokens, you could then use those 4 to instantly take away those extra 2 fire markers that you'll have for firing a volley and fire again, which is tremendously powerful, actually, really powerful. The Russians have something called stoicism, which costs them 2 or 3. Which basically simulates the fact that a lot of if you read a lot of histories of the Russian forces in Napoleonic times, they showed amazing resilience to stand under fire for long periods of time. So it says, unlike other aptitudes, this aptitude is not resolved instead of playing a card. It's used when you need to take a reaction test, no matter for the reason for it. So, okay, so this is different. So instead of saying, laying a card and going, right, I'm not going to lay a card, I'll use some command points, you use this in reaction phase. Before rolling the dice, you can spend 2 command points to roll 1 additional dice, or 3 command points to roll 2 additional dice. You can select the result of your choice amongst the dice rolled, generally the best roll. Yeah, you would expect that. So that's pretty good. So if your units are wobbling and you're worried about it, you could burn 2 or 3 command points, which isn't that expensive actually. You collect them very easily, and effectively have an additional dice on your reaction roll, which is very useful. Prussians have reservist as a national characteristics, which costs them 3. This ability allows an action to be resolved with a unit of landwehr or freikorps in your force, as well as an action with an officer within 6 inches of it. These 2 units get a +1 bonus to all of their dice rolled during the action. Dice connected to shooting, attacks, and defense during hand-to-hand and reaction rolls. So basically, it's kind of like elan. So if you've got an officer near a freikorps or a landwehr unit, he can affect, basically with a cost of 3 command points, those 2 units, up to 2 units, can get a +1 on all their dice rolled that turn, which will give them quite a bit of punch if you use that in the right time. The Spanish have something called the Spanish Ulcer, which costs 4 command points. This ability grants a movement action to a maximum of 2 units with the native and or scout traits. These units get a +2 bonus to their movement distance during this action. If either of these units has not been spotted by the enemy, it can be replaced by a hidden movement marker instead of resolving this action. So that's kind of the guerrillas, I guess. Graham will love this, the sort of guerrillas that can just disappear into a forest or indeed just move very, very rapidly to take on the dastardly froggies. Austrians, they get outdated tactics for 3 or 5 command points. For 3 points, this ability allows you to resolve an action with a unit composed of at least 12 figures. For 5, you can resolve an action with 2 units containing at least 12 figures. Each of these units automatically succeeds its rally tests if it's shaken. So basically, it encourages you to go for large Austrian units, and that will allow them to basically rally automatically, which is not as powerful, I think, as some of the others, but could be tremendously useful all the same, because my experience of muskets and tomahawks is often your morale can be quite brittle, so that's kind of good. The minor nations are grouped into one, and they have something called In the Shadow of Giants, which costs them 6 command points, which is a lot. But it says at the start of the game, choose a troop type other than artillery. This ability grants 2 consecutive actions to 1 unit, which can't be shaken or in flight, of the chosen troop type. If a charge action is resolved, it must be the first of these 2 actions, never the second. So it is expensive. 6 points. You could say, right, my line infantry are going to have the Shadow of Giants ability. You play, at some point, you play the 6 command points. Will give you 2 extra actions for the 1 unit. That seems very expensive. But they are the minor nations. Other things we have here in the rules, we have new traits. You have a thing called Fearless. When a unit with this trait needs to take a reaction test, it doesn't roll the dice. The result is always a 9, and usual modifiers are applied to the automatic roll. So you're going to stick around if you've got Fearless. Swordsman, when a unit with this trait is engaged in hand-to-hand, it can re-roll any attack dice that doesn't score a hit. Wow. I presume only once. Impetuous, when a unit with this trait gets into action, any action must be a charge. If both the following circumstances apply, an enemy unit is within charge range, is spotted, and a charge is possible. Or if the enemy does not contain, if an enemy unit doesn't contain more units than the impetuous unit, a unit in flight always counts as having fewer than the impetuous. At the start of an action, an impetuous unit can roll a die. If they are equal or less than their rally value, they can ignore the effects of this trait. So basically, it simulates the fact that you lose control of impetuous troops. They'll charge things that they think they can beat, unless you successfully keep them under control, which I like. And gunners. Each figures in a unit with this trait count as 3 figures when determining the cost of an order command ability. Note that this unit always counts as being in dispersed formation. So yeah, because I think gun crews, let me just check. Gun crews have 3 artillerymen, which actually would allow you to use command points to activate a gun much easier. But for this rule, because they are classed as gunners, it costs them 3. So 3 gun crew means they're actually using command points in like a 9-man unit, which sort of limits their abilities. You've also got a new weapon here. This is the Jaeger Rifle. Accurate rifles like the Baker Rifle, for example, used by the British and various of the Prussian, Austrians and Russian Jaegers. In game terms, they have the same characteristics as the long rifle, so actually it makes no difference. The troop types we have and the cards you get, you've got line infantry, you get 4 cards for them, 4 cards for light infantry, you get 3 cards for militia, 3 cards for irregulars, 4 cards for light cavalry, 4 cards for cavalry, 2 cards for artillery, and 2 cards for civilians. You also got the 2 Morale cards, the 2 forward boys card, and 3 clock cards. So 59 cards in total if you choose to have every troop type available. So you can see line infantry and light infantry with 4 points move twice as quickly, or potentially activate twice as quickly as artillery does. So artillery is not going to be significant in terms of activations, but we'll see how they go in terms of effectiveness. Didn't use them very much in Muskets and Tomahawks, the first version, because it doesn't seem somehow right to have a cannon in a skirmish game. But Napoleonic cannons were probably more prevalent than they were in North America. So we'll see. Another new rule system here, rule set within these rules or within supplements, is talents. So officers can have a specific talent. So they can be a specialist line infantry commander, which gives them alarm. Units of line infantry formed in line within 6 inches of their officer add 2 to their movement distance if said move allows them to engage in hand-to-hand with the enemy. So basically you can get in it quickly if you're in line, which is kind of nice. A specialist light infantry officer has the order fall back, or the talent fall back. When an officer or any other friendly units, light infantry units within 6 inches of an officer with this trait, is targeted for a charge, they can roll a die before resolving the melee. On a result equal or higher than their rally number, they can choose to make a voluntary recoil instead of voluntarily taking flight. So basically, in the old rules, it was one of the things I didn't like. If you were skirmishers and you were charged by infantry or anything, actually, you couldn't run away because if you ran away, you counted as flight, which meant there was a chance of losing figures just dispersing. Plus, you still could get caught and cut down. So this has a recoil rule if your officer is a specialist light infantry one, which I like. Finally, the unit becomes shaken at the end of its movement, which I think is a good thing. So basically, under a shaken move, so you fall back but are shaken, which I think is great. You have specialist militia officers, which have friendly rivalry. Officers with this trait gain +2 bonus to reaction tests, which is also granted to the militia units within 6 inches instead of the usual +1. You have irregular officers that have a guerrilla trait, so this is right up the street for your Spanish guerrillas. After the officer or a friendly irregular unit within 6 inches of the officer performs a shooting action, they can roll a dice. On a result equal or higher than their rally value, they can immediately make a movement, which is pretty good. So you could use, you have your guerrillas hiding skulking in a forest. They open up on a French column, and then use the guerrilla trait from the officer within 6 to basically pull back out of range and out of visibility, which is actually really nice. I like that a lot. Graham will be very pleased with that rule. You also have a specialist light cavalry commander, which has a vanguard rule. When an officer or friendly unit of a light cavalry within 6 inches of the officer is fired upon, they can immediately roll a dice. If they score equal or higher than their rally value, they can immediately make a recoil move, measure the distance and recalculate the shooting modifier using the officer or the unit's new position. If they're no longer visible or no longer in spotting distance, the shooting action is cancelled, and the unit that would have performed that action loses that action. Wow, that's actually huge. So basically, it's like in bolt action, there is a thing for anything that's a sort of a rally, a recce unit to recce away, and it's kind of the same thing with that rule, although you do have to dice for it. Which is interesting. Specialist cavalry commander for the normal cavalry, line cavalry, has charge formation? Charge formation, I think it says. Difficult to read. When a unit with the cavalry troop type declares a charge action within 6 inches of an officer with this talent, it can first make a movement action to form line before resolving its charge action. So it basically allows you to form up to an effective line formation to charge. which is good. I don't think this is a new rule, but it's clarification. Hidden movement. In the context of this supplement, only units with scout or native trait can use hidden movement markers. Mounted units can never use hidden movement. Free hidden movement markers corresponding to the different troop types are available for download at the website. Fantastic. There's a number of random events that are specific to this period, which is nice. And then they give you a list of a couple of generic troop types, so civilians and sailors, if you're playing your different scenarios. So that's that. As I mentioned, there's a nice section on the history of the conflict, including some lovely illustrations from some classic paintings. And then we move on to the bad guys of the period, the French. They probably have the largest variety of troops in this book. You've got the French officers, you've got the cantonniers. What are they? Don't even know what they're. Oh, so it's medical. Okay, medical people to help you. Helps. So a cantonnier is a unit consisting of a single figure, but despite that is not an officer. Can never voluntarily move within 6 inches of an enemy, and is removed from the game, eliminated if an enemy comes within 6 inches of her. All units within 4 inches of the cantonnier benefit a +1 bonus to the reaction and rally test. That's kind of nice for 10 points. That's pretty good. You've got chasseurs and fusiliers, line and light infantry. You've got grenadiers and carabiniers for more elite troops. You've got voltigeurs. You've got Imperial Guard. You've got hussars, chevalier, lancers, and chasseurs à cheval, basically light cavalry. You've got guard light cavalry here. You've got dragoons, dragoons of the guard. You've got cuirassiers and carabiniers. I don't know why you would have them in skirmish games, but each their own. You've got grenadiers à cheval as well. You've got artillery, National Guard. Yeah, so quite a variety of troop types, which is interesting. Then we got the British Army, which has British Line, British Light, Highlanders Guard, Riflemen, Hussars, Dragoons, basically heavy cavalry. So that's the household cavalry. Again, not sure why you'd have that in a skirmish game, but whatever. Artillery, and then you got Portuguese support, Fusiliers, chasseurs, Cacadors, Portuguese cavalry, artillery, if you want to build them together. Now let's just have a look at basic troop types. Let's go back to the French line and, excuse me, wrestling around again, and the British line. Right, so a French line group of Fusiliers is 8 figures and costs 80 points. A British one is 8 figures and costs 88 points. You can have additional figures, up to 4 of them in the French for up to 10 points per figure. You can have additional in the British up to 11 points a figure. Okay. French have line infantry trained as a discipline, 6+ shooting, 6+ aggression, and 5+ defence. The British have same trained discipline, 5+ shooting and 6+ aggression, 5+ defence. So that's why they're slightly more expensive. They're better firing. Both have muskets and close order. The French can be unmotivated, conscript, grizzled, or chasseurs as their traits. British can only be basically their British are much the same. But they can be improved by making them the light company or the grenadier company. So the British are, point for point, a little bit more expensive than the French, which kind of makes a difference because A, you've got that national characteristic rule, but also you've got the better shooting ability, only 5+, whereas it's 6+ with the French. So that's nice. I like national characteristics in the rules. I think where rules, I get frustrated when rules are very vanilla. Everything's the same. Part of the challenge and what I loved when I first started Napoleonics back in the day with the Bruce Quarry rules was the national characteristics. I loved that. Thought that gave me the spice of the game. Prussian army list, you've got Prussian Musketeers, Grenadiers and Reservists. You've got Fusiliers and Schützen from the 3rd rank, as well as an option. Let's have a look at the points cost. So their standard muskets are like the French, really. 8 figures and 80 points. And they're 6+, 6+, 5+. So yeah, exactly the same as the French. You've also got Jaegers, you've got Hussars and Lancers, Dragoons, Cuirassiers, and Artillery in the Prussian Army. You've got Landwehr, Landwehr Cavalry, Freikorps, and Freikorps Cavalry. So lots of options there for the Prussians, which is good. Spanish Army. Again, my mate Graham will love this. He loves his Spaniards. You've got Spanish officer, Spanish priest as a special unit, single figure. If he gets within 4 inches of when a priest gets an action, he can choose 1 unit in flight within 4 inches instead of resolving the action. This unit immediately attempts to rally as if it's been activated. So basically, he helps rally the troops, which is nice. You've got Fusiliers, light infantry, Cacadors. Let's have a look at the Spanish Fusiliers. 8 figures for 64 points compared to the 8 for 80 for the French. They are recruit though instead of trained. 6+, 6+, 5+. The same shooting, aggression and defence factor as the French, but they're recruit, so the morale is not as good. You can make them prestigious regiment or unmotivated or hardened. If you make them hardened, they go up to 84 points, so 4 points more than the French, but they become trained. So they're actually it's not cost effective, if you like, for making the Spanish trained. You've got light infantry, Cacadors, as I mentioned. You've got Lancers and Hussars, Dragoons and Carabiniers, line troops. You've got Guard, Cavalry, Artillery, Volunteers and Militia, Guerrillas. Let's have a look at Guerrillas. So Guerrillas are 4 figures for 27 points, 7 points per additional figure, up to 4 more. They're irregular skirmish, 6+, 6+, 6+, but they do have an obsolete assortment of equipment, and they are native and scouts. So probably very brittle, but with that rule about them being able to skulk around the woods, they could be quite effective. Got the Austrian Army. A lot of people seem to be very into the Austrian armies at the moment. Alec, I know, has got one. Leon, T66, has been doing one. Ken, my mucker from the Plastic Crack, is building an Austrian army. The Austrians have Fusiliers, which again are 8 figures, costing 80 points. But you can have up to 8 additional, which basically simulates the large battalions that the Austrians had. You can have up to 8 new figures in your group. They are same factors, trained 6+, 6+, 5+ as all the others. You can have skirmishers, Grenzer. Oh no, there's Grenadiers, sorry. Grenzers are there. Jaegers who have rifles. Landwehr. Light cavalry, Hussars and Lancers, Dragoons, Chasseurs and Artillery. So not such a big list for the Austrians, but you can obviously make them Hungarians and Austrians and various other races if you want. The different variety of light infantry is interesting with those. Russians with their stoic infantry, you've got the Musketeers and Grenadiers. The Musketeers, 8 figures for 72 points. 4 additional figures at 9 points a man. Their shooting is worse, so they're trained 7+ for shooting, 6 for aggression, 5 for defence. So that's basically, we've got the French at 6, the British at 5, the Russians at 7. Which again, I like. The Russians emphasise the bayonet over the firepower in this period. So maybe you could argue their aggression should be better. You can give them the bayonet is wise for 20 points a unit, and they gain that swordsman's trait. Now that's actually really powerful. I mean, it's expensive, but basically, if you remember, the swordsman trait gives you a reroll on all missed in hand-to-hand. Could be useful. Might be worth having at least 1 unit like that. So you've got the Grenadiers, you've got skirmishing light infantry, you've got the Jaegers, you've got guard regiments. What are they like? 6 figures for 90 points instead of 8 for 72, so that's a lot of money. They have 6 plus, 5 plus, 4 plus, but they are veteran and elite. Very nice. You've got a section of elite guard marksmen. Wow. Oh, that's an interesting option. You've got light cavalry, hussars, uhlans, and mounted Jaegers. You've got the Cossacks, got to have the Cossacks, and you've got the Burkas and the Kamkins, which use bow primarily. So that adds you a bit of Russian flavour there. You've got the light cavalry, hussars, uhlans, and Cossacks of the guard. Sorry, you've got dragoons, dragoon guards, cuirassiers, lots in the Russian army. I think this is actually the biggest list. You've got life guards and cuirassiers of the guard. You've got artillery, opolcheni, the militia. Opolcheni cavalry, partisans and volunteers, which is that's a massive selection there. Wow, that Russian army is huge. And then finally onto the minor nations. As I say, these are to represent all the others that aren't included specifically. You've got line infantry, so they're fairly standard. 8 figures for 80 points, 665, so just like a French unit. You've got grenadiers, light troops, light cavalry, and artillery, so nothing particularly special there, and then some lovely illustrations. One of the nice things about these rule sets is the scenarios that come with them, and these look equally interesting and look like they've got a lot of repeat playability. It's one of the things with the other book that's really good. You've got a convoy which has all different options of things it can be transported, fought at different times of year with different weather, which gives that repeat playability a lot. Lots of rules around that. What else we got here? We got the final hour. Basically, is a sort of do or die last desperate fight going on, which looks fun. Again, repeatability because you've got lots of different variations on time of year, the weather, and what have you. You've got the assault. Which is basically a large detachment racing to lead the assault against a position held by enemy forces who need to be dislodged urgently. So it's an attack-defense game, which might work well for a solo game, for instance. And then you've got Heart of the Inferno, which is player forces are a part of a larger battle. So basically it's a section of a battle that you're playing, which is fun. I mean, which I think will be really good to play through. I like the scenarios in these books. There's the randomness. These are the special ones for this book. And that's it. So overall, impressive set of rules. Really interested to play these. So reminder, go to Alex's channel if you want to see highlights of a game that he played using the rules for the first time. I'm looking forward to getting a game, hopefully, face-to-face. We can soon game indoors again. So I'm looking forward to having a game of these rule sets. Get my Russians out, my Brits out, or maybe even my other minor nations fighting. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that look through of these rules. Overall, very impressed. I think it's a good rule set, or good scenario. If you've already got the rules, I'm sure people have rushed out to buy these as well, like I did. You can get them from North Star, amongst others. Say 20 quid for the scenario book, 10 quid for the cards. I haven't really looked at the cards, but they look, just like the other ones. Nicely done cards. Nice quality. Worth putting these in. Oh, I like the light cavalry card. You probably need to put these in the wallet to stop them getting worn, but I'll probably do that with mine. Anyway, there you go. That's a look through the Muskets and Shakos and Bayonets Napoleonic supplement for Muskets and Tomahawks. Let me know what you think. Are you itching to have a go at it? Have you got the rules? Have you had a game yet? Does it play well? Looks good to me. Looks very, very promising, and I can't wait to have a game. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hit that click, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you again soon. This is Dom, signing out. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like, and even if you didn't,
hit the dislike, but please just explain why. It's really difficult to know when you get a dislike what the reason is. Maybe they just hate me, but maybe it's because you didn't like the subject. But it'd just be helpful to know. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button so you see when I put stuff up. And if you're feeling particularly generous, there's a Patreon page linked to the channel, which helps me out when I'm trying to do stuff for the future, and also a link to some merchandise like t-shirts and so forth that you might be interested in. So thanks for watching once again. Stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you again soon. This is Dom signing out.